Welcome back, everyone, to T1 versus Gen G. Spoilers for that match if you haven't seen it yet. The most important thing is that T1 is returning to finals with some really crazy, kind of unbelievably dominant early games over Gen G. We're talking up by 4K, 5K, 6K gold before 20 minutes. We're going to jump in and take a look. So in this first game, we see the first early game where Gen G is down, 1.5K gold. There's a lot of complicated reasons for this, but put simply, T1 takes a lot of plates. They're very good at taking plates. We'll see this all series long, and we'll dive into it more in game 3 and 4. This fight actually doesn't go very well for T1. There's 3 tanks here on the grub, and the carries are safe on the side, so Owner goes in on the tank here, and so they just at a really bad angle, because for them to follow up on these tanks that Owner is going in on means that these carries over here just get to free fire. So it's a really awkward angle from T1. Faker on the Yone can't really do anything. He has his ultimate, but I think he just doesn't want to cast it on the front line because he knows they're not going to be able to finish anyone off. We see even after this big cast lands from Zeus, again, it's all on the tanks. And so Faker's like, well, I'm going to ult the Renek. Am I going to ult the Leona? He's just not confident that he'll get the kill either way. So he ends up just not using the ult at all and kind of doing nothing because the fight was so awkward. So luckily, because Gen G's better at team fighting than T1, they've managed to catch up this game. They now have a little gold lead. And now we've seen this Skarner counter to Yone a lot. Faker is in the E, so we know he's going to snap back here. So Canyon just has the R ready and catches Faker as soon as he snaps back. Great from Canyon. And then here, Gen G just totally throw this Baron. They have vision that Owner is starting the Baron, and they see Ashe in the mid lane and Gragas in the bot lane, and they have no vision on these 3. So they know that 4 could be on Baron, but they just stay on the Dragon and just let the T1 have the Baron. Renekton doesn't teleport in. Skarner doesn't peel off the Dragon at any point. They just, I guess, think that T1's not really going to do it, but they do it. So just really bad macro from Gen G. And then you can see how desperate Gen G are to get something back in this team fight after the Baron. We see that 2 peel off to go after Zeus, leaving just Keen and Canyon here. And Canyon in the 2v3 flash ults forward. Don't know what he thinks he's going to get done with just a Renekton against 3, but a little over aggressive from Canyon there. And then here, great cask from Zeus to get the Skarner back. And then in this 5v4, that's when any sane team would hide under their turret. Lehens gets caught out by this. And then instead of backing up here under the turret, he decides to go in on a 4v5, pulling his team away from the turret. So just really bad engage from Lehens there. And then Gen G, great team fighting team. Even though they're down 5k in this fight, they give it their all. And it looks like it's going pretty well for Gen G. They're kind of casked with each other, and they're kind of all clumped up here, and everything's going well. But then we see what happens here is Gen G has a choice. Who are we going to attack? We could attack Zeus, the tank with stopwatch. We could attack Faker, who's a flimsy Yone, or Gumayusi, who's a squishy Ashe. So the correct answer is to attack Gumayusi or Faker. They go for Zeus, who's the tank with stopwatch. They're all on Zeus. They're all on Zeus. They're still all on Zeus. They're a little split onto Faker. Maybe if they were all on Zeus, it would have worked, but they did like 60% into Zeus and 40% into Faker and nothing into Gumayusi. So just rare, bad target prio from Gen G. Usually that's something they're really good at during team fights. So Zeus just wastes all the damage they put into him in the stopwatch, and Gumayusi untouched kills everybody. However, that team fight was Gen G with 5k gold down, so you can imagine that they do look like the better team fighting team. If they had been even gold, it probably would have been a Gen G victory. And so Gen G really suffering from having this kind of worse macro, losing gold over the course of the game and having to rely on their stronger team fighting. So in game 2, we just have a crazy draft from T1. Not only are Kindred and Caitlyn pretty weak champs just in general, but Caitlyn is especially weak if you have a low damage comp, and they have Maokai top and Braum support, very low damage comp. Bad game for Caitlyn. The person who pulls aggro first is Pays on the Kaisa, and then it's Canyon on the Skarner, and then it's Keen on the Jax. The one person who was supposed to pull tower aggro, Lehens, is the last one to pull tower aggro. No doubt when they don't have a bad early game, when they're 4k gold up here at a major team fight, they're probably going to win the game. So here, Zeus uses his ultimate, but there's no follow-up engage, and then Keen kind of scares everyone off, and then Zeus, instead of backing up, flashing out, once his team backs up, he goes in. So really rare split call from T1 there. Usually they're very in sync and move together, but there they were disjointed and Zeus gets killed. And you can see this kind of arrogance by T1, thinking that they can still win this fight 4v5 or take the Baron. You can tell they have this kind of bullying attitude. They're used to kind of playing suboptimally against weaker teams and getting away with it. Gen.G is not a weaker team, so they don't let them get away with it. They go over the wall, keeping Owner out of the pit so he doesn't smite steal. And you just see so much control from Keen saying, no, 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 jungler's not getting into the pit. We are not a bad team. We are not going to let you bully us. Remember when HLE would always split up? Gen.G's kind of the opposite. They see this Maokai ult coming out. They say, okay, everyone back up, consolidate, group up. They can't beat us if we're grouped up. So just super safe play from Gen.G here. They're kind of the anti-HLE and really don't leave any openings for T1 to take advantage of. This is kind of what I expected to see in the majority of games, was control from Gen.G, play safe, just stay grouped. Don't create a lot of chaos that T1 can take advantage of, and you should sail to a smooth victory. Here in game 3, we have kind of a split call at this team fight from Gen.G. Lahens and Keen are kind of trying to go in on this fight, but Canyon, who used the Nocturne ult, doesn't want to go in. I think they're scared that this is going to be a 4v5 because they know their Ahri is far away, and they actually don't know where this Ashe is. I think they think she could be closer in the jungle, so Canyon does not want to go in here. And so they end up sacrificing Lahens to all kind of run away from this. Faker has the movement speed from the TP and just runs down Keen. Definitely think that he thought he could get out of that, but just flawless mechanics from Faker here, get the kill. This is one of those times in League where it just feels kind of random, because it's like, okay, well, they lost 2 in an early game fight, no big deal. Yes, very big deal, because this means that T1 gets up to 6 grubs, and then they go and push this entire top turret to death. And that is a completely outrageous amount of gold. They are now 3k gold up. They were even gold. They got 2 kills in a fight, and they are now 3k gold up. You can say it's Gen.G's fault for losing the first 3 grubs, but honestly, I don't know about this game design. Is it fair that winning a team fight by 2 kills for the second set of grubs turns an even game into a 3k gold lead at 11.5 minutes? I'll leave that up to you guys to decide, but that's pretty insane to me. And this is where it really starts to feel like Gen.G and T1 are kind of playing 2 different games, because T1 with the 6 grubs just groups bot to push the tower down to death. Apparently that's the correct thing to do when you have 6 grubs. And Gen.G has the teleport on Ahri. I think they just don't realize that you have to use teleport on Ahri here and defend the turret. That it's so powerful to just send all 5 bot and push the turret to death with 6 grubs that you have to TP down and fight for this turret. Gen.G just don't really understand how the game works with void grubs in it. Once again, Keen has TP up and he has to TP in here. The team just doesn't realize that if they let this Rift Herald go unanswered, the game is completely over. The 6 void mites means the towers instantly melt. That's another 500 gold from the tower, plus gold from these kills. So Gen.G just doesn't realize that they have to be spending everything they have to defend these towers, because you can't just be giving over 500 gold, 1,000 gold, 1,500 gold over and over again, just letting the towers go down. That's a 5.5k gold lead at 15 minutes. The game is just over. Gen.G didn't even get the chance to play the game. T1 won 1 fight at Void Mites, sent all 4 to push top turret, sent all 4 to push bottom turret, and then sent 3 people to push down all the mid turrets with Rift Herald. So they won the entire game, only fighting Gen.G basically 1 time at that first Rift Herald. So here, Gen.G should just calm down and say, okay, we didn't realize Void Mites are completely OP. The coaches should be telling Gen.G, do not let them take your towers without a fight. Use your teleports to defend the towers if you have to, because they're gonna get an early game lead, and that's the only way you lose these games. Let's see if Gen.G learns that lesson in game 4. Gen.G knows their only weakness is the early game. They cannot help themselves. Canyon walking forward to do what? What is an Italy going to do to a Skarner? What were his hopes there? But the good news is Gen.G actually get 2 of the Void Grubs, and the lead is only 1k. So Gen.G is totally in control in their comfort zone here if they can just stem the bleeding. And so we can see on the minimap how hard of a time Gen.G is having because T1 is coming in on all 3 of these turrets. T1 have two huge macro advantages in this game for pushing turrets. One, Pyke is a roaming support, so we can go and apply pressure. We'll see he'll apply pressure to this top turret, make it so that Pays cannot defend these turret plates or get much farm. And they have Skarner, who does not care about farm as much as Nidalee. Nidalee doesn't really want to help defend the turrets, even though she probably should, because she really wants to be farming, whereas the Skarner doesn't care as much, and he again applies pressure on those turrets. All of these turret plates that go down, just providing so much money into the T1 pockets. Turret plates going down on the bot turret as well. And this is with T1 out having to use any teleports, just insane macro, getting all these turret plates. Here, we see that there's such a thing as having too much of a numbers advantage. There's all 5 Gen.G against only 3 T1. That actually isn't good as Gen.G because it means that T1 is probably somewhere taking your turrets. And yes, right here we see Jax is pushing down the mid turret while this whole fight is happening. Now, Lehens also gets caught out, and so they actually lose 1 in the 2v5 here, which is a disaster. But you can see Jax took that entire mid turret and is now going to come up and join the fight. It's like, even if you don't really win the fight, you still have all the turret gold. T1 now almost 5k gold up just from taking so many turret plates. And then Lehens dies for a 4th time. He has flash up. And here we see that at a 5k gold deficit, Gen.G is still winning fights. They're so good at team fighting. Keria kind of inting there. So you can just imagine how much Gen.G would have won this game if they played safer in the early game, if they didn't int 4 deaths away, if they just said to Keen, look, the one danger we have is them taking all our turrets like they did in game 3. Just as the Poppy, just go watch the Jax. Make sure he doesn't split push. We'll handle everything else. You don't have to be there for any other fight. Just stop the Jax from split pushing. That's the only way we lose this game. Things would have gone so differently from Gen.G. Gen.G winning more fights at a 5k gold deficit. Poppy ult out, gives them a numbers advantage. Jumping on Zeus. Pyke useless in these team fights. And Gen.Z actually catch up on gold, and it looks like they're about to win this game. But Pays with flash needs to flash this Skarner ult because Skarner ult cannot be cleansed. He misses that flash, and Pays gets popped, and that is game over. If Pays had flashed that Skarner ult, they probably would have won this fight and won the game. So that's how close they were despite losing 5k gold. So anyone who says that T1 was dominating at all in this game when they were basically struggling to ever win a fight against Gen.G, even if they're 4 or 5k gold up, is crazy. I think one of the subtle things that's strong about T1 here is in their game against top esports, they won all those games by going super late because they figured that top esports couldn't answer them in the late game. And here against Gen.G, where Gen.G can answer them in the late game, they went much more aggressive. Let me get Void Grubs every game. Let me push the tower super hard in the early game. So they really adapted their strategy to the team that they were facing. And I think that's really impressive. That said, it's very unforgivable for Gen.G after losing in game 3 to they pushed all our towers down before 16 minutes to then lose again in game 4. They pushed all our towers down in 16 minutes. So sadly, we have to say goodbye to Gen.G, and T1 played very well, but I don't think they played like incredibly well. I think Gen.G also kind of threw those games. No team can force you to lose all 3 of your towers by 14 minutes, right? No team is that strong. Gen.G's bad play is what allowed them to lose all of their towers by 14 minutes. T1 remains higher than BLG in this tier list because this tier list has always been power level this tournament, and T1 has a higher power level this tournament. But BLG is getting more and more powerful every series, and I don't perceive the same thing happening with T1. So I actually do predict that BLG will win the series against T1, even though they've had a weaker average power level during this tournament. They had a much higher power level than T1 in the regular season and at MSI, for example. So if you want more details on that, watch my finals pick'em prediction video. That one is out now. The series definitely leaves a weird feeling in your mouth because it doesn't really feel like they were playing the same game. It felt like T1 was playing like super macro, sneaky tower push you where you're not expecting it, just really kind of trying to avoid those fights. And Gen.G just kind of winning all the fights. T1's strategy was clearly more effective. To say that Gen.G underperformed is not to say that T1 did not play very well, right? Both can be true at the same time. Can't wait for this T1 versus BLG game. I think that's going to be a complete banger. So excited for that. Make sure you subscribe if you love the content. YouTube really cares that I get those subscriber numbers up, so please subscribe. Or if you hate the content and you love to hate the content, make sure you also watch my Grand Finals Pick'em prediction video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see y'all next time.